in its current form or format will benefit the city.
Zimbabwe
and
for the past 42 years it has been in power, and we are still counting.
Sure, go ahead.
The government has
Thanks,
blamed everyone except
So
itself
the
when 2,500
my
Zimbabwean
issue on the
pregnant
contract
women
is this.
die
Go
each
back
year
to
from childbirth.
2016, 2018. City of Harare issued tenders. In 2016, they issued tenders. There were 13 respondents. Waste to energy program, and again, that just floated into distance. I read that as being blocked, and so they didn't want council to proceed with that. So now we get this sudden contract that pops up, is pushed through at the time of by-elections, and it's with well-known names. I mean, we have geogenics is not new to Zimbabwe. It was here previously as Integrated Energy BV. The names that occur there are well known or known from the Drax/COVID scandal, and they now have the contract for the waste to energy program. My issue is twofold. One, why was the contract, or why was the thing not tendered again and properly? We are told that PRAS has given it a special project scenario, so they can go ahead and do it as they have done. However, there's more and more evidence coming to light as to what PRAS have and haven't done. The people who did the Drax scandal took us, when we were all dying of COVID, took us for a ride and cost the country a lot of money. Nothing happened to them, really. And so now we've got the same people winning a contract, and they didn't even win the contract. They were given the contract, let's say it that way. One of the biggest issues I have is that the cabinet passed this project before the council of the city of Harare did. So it appears that the contract has been agreed, signed, and delivered by the cabinet and all the councillors who appeared at the said meeting. There were 18 of them, and they must account for what they've done. Those councillors now were just basically ticking a box of an agreement already approved. To my knowledge, and certainly to public knowledge, there has been no assessment of the waste recently to give us the quality and the quantity of the waste. You can't burn all waste. You can't use all waste. The issues of recycling are not covered. But basically, there were no assessments done on the waste. And the big issue is quantity, because when you get the terms of the contract, you'll understand what the problem we have with quantity. But before the councillors went into the said meeting, they were invited, and we have the invitation or the memo by the Minister of Local Government to attend a meeting with them. What was said there and done, but the minister basically was at Townhouse and oversaw this meeting, and then they went in and voted for this agreement. I've contacted the embassy, the Dutch embassy here, and they have not registered in the Netherlands. They have had no contact with the people have not. And you would think contractors, genuine contractors coming to put in 300 million euros into the country, would make sure that their embassy knew what was going on. One, for protection, but also secondly, we have BIPA here in Zim. There's no reason why this couldn't fall under BIPA as well. And obviously the embassy would aware of it. We know Geogenics as well from the press and from previous issues had major issues in Albania. In Albania, they did a similar project and it ultimately ended up mainly because the people knew the registered in a different country. Well, that doesn't wash with us because basically the animal is the same. I have a major issue also in the format of the contract. The contract was decided, discussed, and drawn up by who? We know that City of Harare do not have the expertise to draw up this. No one that I'm aware of has the who was involved, if they were involved in this contract. There's no one on the City of Harare who offered them advice as to what to do or not, which system to go. So those basically are the issues I have leading up to the contract. Now, the major issue, not one stakeholder that I'm aware of was even contacted or even consulted on the whole issue. Now, considering that us as residents are going to end up paying this bill, surely we should have been consulted, not us, our representatives. The technical expertise, we have no idea who the technical expertise were who were consulted to help City of Harare, and certainly this all seems to have been done in haste, mainly because of the issue of the by-elections of March 27th. So this was all rushed through and done. Now we get to the contract. This is where I have major issues with the contract, and it's been covered quite well in the press. The price we are supposed to pay is probably one of the issues, the first issue, and that is $40 a ton to dump waste in Pomona. But it's not $40 a ton of waste. It's $40 plus VAT for a start. Secondly, we are fully aware that Pomona does not even have a weighbridge. So how do you measure the waste? Now, contractors who are private contractors who are dumping waste there from Harare used to pay 7,000 bond for a 7-ton truck. Now they're paying $40, but because there's no weighbridge, they're charging you at the capacity of the truck delivery. So in the case of a 7-ton truck, it would be 7 tons times $40 plus VAT. So that has basically brought any private person to a standstill, because there's no ways their contracts could continue on that format. The second issue is that, and this is coming to light now, is that a lot of the people delivering there are getting invoices, but there's no VAT, there's no number for all the regular ZIMRA invoices, and some people have even followed it to the head office, and they are getting nowhere. We have in the contract now, the contract starts with 500 tons delivered per day as a guaranteed minimum amount to be delivered. So that's 500. And then by year 5, we've got to deliver 1,000 tons. Now we get back to what I said earlier on. My issue on quantity is that quantity available in Harare? Can we deliver 1,000 tons in 5 years' time to the waste management? And can we deliver 500 tons per day? What happens on Sundays? What happens on public holidays? So the minimum amount is guaranteed. So in other words, as was said last night, when you're delivering to City of Harare, when you're delivering to Pomona now, they don't have to actually weigh you, because if you City of Harare, because you've got to deliver 500 tons. We also know from the press that City of Harare only have 6 or 7 trucks working, bar the new ones coming in now, and they're not that many. But let's say 7 trucks working, there's no ways they can deliver the minimum threshold. So City of Harare will be billed for 500 tons per day times $40 plus VAT as we talk now.
So let me get this. Let me just get some clarification. So you are saying that the first 5 years, you're supposed to deliver a minimum of 500 tons at $40 a ton, which works out to be 20,000 US dollars a day. That's the minimum. So if you don't deliver that minimum, what happens?
Well, you pay. You get billed. My good friend, the mayor, will get a bill for 500 tons, whether it's a Sunday or whether he's delivered it or whether he hasn't. But it's not that.
So if say today there was no rubbish, they couldn't find rubbish, and they couldn't deliver, it means they would still pay this company 20,000 US.
That's what the document says. So if you look at it, if we've got 6 trucks working today, because one, but we're paying for 500. But it's only 500 this year. Then in a couple of years or even next year, it goes up a little bit. So in 5 years, it crawls up to 1,000 tons. So the minimum deliverage is what you pay, and it's guaranteed. So that I hope is clear. But also, one of
what does this company provide in terms of delivering this rubbish? Is City of Harare supposed to find its own trucks, fuel them up, pay the people who are picking up the garbage and deliver, and this company pays nothing at all? It contributes nothing to the delivery of garbage.
You put it in a nutshell. So that's the Achilles heel of the whole project that I'm coming to. We know that City of Harare have struggled for many years on maintaining the fleet, running the fleet, and delivering. Whether it's management, whether it's a centralized workshop system, whether it's the way they drive the trucks, doesn't matter. They can't do it. So that now remains as our cost as the funders of City of Harare. So we deliver our waste to their plant and pay them $40 per ton for doing that. But I haven't got to the next point. The next point, if we follow the rubbish which is being delivered to Pomona, which we've just paid for, we're now giving them that whole thing free of charge. There's no rental. Mahara. Then, on top of that, what have they done for that? Nothing. They put a fence around the place. So they're going to build a plant. Yes, they borrow the money, they build the plant, they run it for 30 years, which we'll get to just now. Who says the plant's still going to be in good nick? So
just for clarity, Muri's where dumps Indian.
Ndisu, we are the landlords.
So muruku tora rubbish. Moenda monesa mudamp ya muno owner.
And then to know about.
Okay, proceed.
So it straight there, but the one, it sounds a little point, but it is a basic contractual obligation for the city. If we are going into a massive investment of 300 million, and let's say we agreed to pay the $40 a ton, if we've got half a brain cell, what we would do is get VAT exemption for that transaction from the government in the deal. But that hasn't even been considered. So then we're paying VAT on that anyway. So we are doing everything, and then we get charged for it. So there's no sense in that. Now, I would say I've never seen a deal like this, but I have. There's exact copy of this deal, and that's how Zenara have done. They leave the running expenses with Zenara, and then the person who's the JV partner there is getting 18% of all collections. So all the expenditure is left with the roads authority, yet the person's getting 18% of collections. Now, we've got exactly the same situation. We've got all the expenditure, and they're getting $40 a ton with a minimum guaranteed amount. So it absolutely does not make sense. And what has highlighted it and brought this, and it's people don't realize how serious this is. With the inability to collect the waste, there are about 15 private waste contractors who've sprung up in Harare who've been delivering to there. they've been standing because they can't deliver for the last week. And that's a major issue, because if they can't deliver their rubbish because of that, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to pay $40 a ton and deliver it to Pomona, or they're going to go around the corner? I'm not saying they're all going to do that. But myself as a resident here in Borrowdale, if I collect my own rubbish and take it to the dump, I've got to pay $40 if I've got a ton. Do you think I'm going to do that when I'm doing the city a favor? I'm going to Pomona and I have to pay for it.
So just to get some clarity again, you said they don't have a weigh bridge to weigh the truck. So if I'm driving a 10-ton truck, but my garbage is 1 ton, how do they measure?
You're going to have to ask them that. But at the moment, they're trying to force people to pay for the size of their truck. That is for private people, not for City of Harare. City of Harare have got a contract where they've guaranteed a minimum wage, which they won't get close to. So they're just milking City of Harare on that one.
So if you're a private contractor and you have collected garbage from your clients with, let's say, 2 tons, but you're driving a 10-ton truck, you will be charged 10 tons.
That is originally what they were doing. There is rumors coming through today where they are now estimating the weight, but the bottom line is it's not sustainable. It doesn't matter how they do it, it's not sustainable. 2, they haven't even put in a weigh bridge, so how can they charge?
What was the rush? What was the rush?
Well, the initial rush was to get the thing through quickly before the by-elections. And I believe the rush now is to get it done and start to show some form of intent and operation to calm the furlough from the residents and this particular court case in the issue of it not being good for the city. This deal is set up to fail, because as we continue to the last 5 or 6 points, you will see that we don't have a chance of fulfilling our obligations. So if we go on to the next point, is the contract itself, as we've talked, is in US dollars. The whole contract's in US dollars with Geogenics. However, City of Harare receive their revenue and charge their revenue and are bound to charge their revenue in Zimbabwe dollars local. Now, what I have a problem with that is if we look what's happened in the last 2 weeks alone, the currency has dropped by nearly 50%, if not more. Doesn't matter which type of rate you use. So if it's dropped by 50%, it does mean that City of Harare in US dollars are receiving 50% less. So what do you think it's going to be like by the end of this year? Because remember, City of Harare only do their budget every year. Yes, they have the option of getting an increment from the minister, but that takes it, the mail will tell you, that takes at least 3 months. So basically the income for City of Harare has dropped, but we still have to pay the US dollars. So the exchange rate loss will be borne by the residents as always. Now, obviously, the people who put this contract together are fully aware that the ability to pay is not there by City of Harare. So how have they guaranteed payment? What they've done is they've gone the next step, and they're the devolution funds, which I'd like to go in later once I've finished talking, because that's a separate story. So when the questions come up, I'd like to just discuss the devolution funds briefly. So the devolution funds, the portion of money that you get from the national budget to do infrastructural development mainly, and I think if you speak across the whole of Harare, we know our biggest problem is water. So that now goes for the next 30 years to guarantee our debt.
Sorry, I just want, for purposes of the listeners, can you explain what are devolution funds?
Sure. The devolution funds, if we all recall, in the 2013 constitution, we had to devolute. By devolute, we mean that the powers of authority must move from a centralized government right down to us residents, in broad terms. So nothing has happened regards putting in a bill. A bill then becomes an act once approved by Parliament. And in that act, it would give you how to issue the funds, where they go to, what the priorities are, who behaves, who handles the money, etc., etc., etc. So it puts in the structure of how you handle 5% of the national budget. The minimum amount allocated of the total national budget is 5%. So without a bill, you have no oversight. You have no oversight on 5% of the national budget. So what has happened now is 2 years ago, or maybe 3 even now, I took the minister to court to force him to put a devolution bill into Parliament, which duly came. When it came, it was withdrawn within provincial development coordinator. These guys are appointed by the minister or through the minister by the president. The issue with that is they're non-elected. So our elected officials who's supposed to do the job are the mayor and whoever, his financial controller or whatever. So we now got a duplication of authority. So anyway, the bills have been withdrawn and nothing's happened since then. So the issue is now we have one man who happens to be the Minister of Local Government, and he now controls how that money is distributed, where it's distributed, and what for. Who he consults with. If you ask him, he'll say, I've consulted. But who's he consulted with? I don't know one councillor, I don't know one MP who's been consulted on any infrastructural development for the Harare province.
So for clarity again, Rusty, I just want to clarify this. What Rusty is saying is that Harare City Council does not have money that is required to fund this deal. And the government is aware that the Harare City Council does not have money. So Harare City Council, like all the other city councils in the country, is entitled to a devolution fund, which comes from central government. And this fund is what Harare City Council uses for other things, upgrades, fixing lights, and so on. But the minister, the plan is to say that you have failed to pay that deal at Pomona. We are going to draw down on your devolution fund. So in other words, the money doesn't get to Harare City Council. And what we end up having is a situation where the residents of Harare will say the opposition that runs the councils is failing to deliver services, and yet that money has been docked already. Was that right?
100%. So now this deal carries on for 30 years, as we know. I have a serious issue with our devolution funds guaranteeing payment for any shortfall on this. So you can already see this bill, this agreement is starting to smell like the waste does. So we then go now, once these guys have put this up, they're already charging now. So now they put up the let's call it factory. They put up the plant. The plant then supplies ZESA. I have a problem because when the money comes for the electricity supplied, it goes to the contractor. It doesn't come to City of Harare. So the contractor is getting paid for supplying the waste by us. He's getting the site for free, and then he gets all the income. Now, my problem with that is not necessarily them just getting the income. My problem with that is, why is there not a guarantee from ZESA on this contract that when we supply 22 megawatts, for example, that we will have first call on that during load shedding just to run, for example, all our water pumps that pump to the city? Because if you live where I live, it goes through 4 pump stations to get up here and to Hatcliffe. So if we had that guarantee, we wouldn't have breakdowns for water supply at one station, because all you need is one pump station to go down and you've broken the chain. So if we had that guarantee from the electricity that we supply from ZESA, it would be fantastic, because then at least we've secured our pump station to pump 24/7 unless breakdown, and to pump what little they can pump. So that small little thing indicates that this deal has got nothing in favor for City of Harare. The other issue is the recycling issue. Recycling, reusing, etc., is becoming a buzzword throughout the world. And I don't see any recycling being brought in, whether it's for tins, whether it's for metals, whether it's plastic, cardboard. So the issue of recycling is not covered. Now, in the two previous tenders, that was one of the driving things, was recycling. Because when you recycle, it's labor intensive. And if we could employ more people from my own constituency, Hatcliffe, but that's not even covered. So the recycling is not covered at all. The employment of people is not covered at all. There should be something in the contract which states that, for example, and I'm all the major issues I have with the contract. And my prayer, very simply, in a nutshell, is that I would like a total review of this contract and the way it was arrived at, because I see nothing for City of Harare in it, and I see that it's been drawn up to fail and basically loot the funds out of Harare, whatever's left. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rusty. Now, for those who have just joined us, Rusty Makeham is the Member of Parliament for Harare North. It covers Borodale, it covers Heathcliff. Has gone to court. He is saying that he is opposed to this bill and has filed an application
generally covering most of those points that I've just mentioned. But I think what is of importance, procedure and council has been followed correctly. I believe there's serious interference from the minister. I believe no due diligence was done by council in any form whatsoever. Payments on the waste no finished project that is worth talking about anywhere, and it's steamrolled through. That is it on the procedural side, and I say this tongue-in-cheek. So why I want a review of the contract, as soon as we start reviewing the contracts, you will see that it's got more holes in it than a colander. And so my relief is, let's have a look at the contract. We want to go right through the contract. Let's go through it. Let's talk to the stakeholders about it. Let's do the due diligence. He will be left with the debt. One of the major issues I left out is that if these guys are inconvenienced and City of Harare don't perform or come up to the license, supplying licenses, etc., they can walk away, and they walk away with $3.5 million. So the whole bill is the whole contract is slanted in favor of the contractor and the guy who's supposedly going to do a build, operate, and take over. I have a problem with that, because after 30 years, I don't know how much is going to be left for us to take over. Thank you.
How much is this contract, over 30 years?
Well, you'd have to work it out, but you would have to work it out from the deliveries that we're talking of. You'd have to work out from the ZESA price of 22 megawatts. So, and then the cost of supposedly 300 million euros. It's very interesting. When the first tenders were done in 2016, the range of prices were between 186 and 200 from memory, and but it was certainly nowhere near 300 million. So in 2016, the tenders coming in were around about the 200 mark. So prices have obviously gone up substantially. But the issue is also, what is the best system for us to have? Now, if you haven't even checked on the waste, you have no system other than the one that these guys have got. You have no alternatives. What do you do with the waste that's already there? Because it's basically inert. You can't burn it. You can't use the waste that's there. Do you fill up the rest of the place with solar plants? What do you do with it? There's none of that. There's been no discussions. So we're talking blindly here. We don't know what is on offer. What do we get for that 300 million?
Thank you very much, Rusty, for that. I'm going to go to the mayor and allow him to present his case. Listening, Rusty Meckham, the Member of Parliament for Harare North, who was also a councillor. So he has been a councillor and is now a Member of Parliament. He belongs to Triple C. You can see the man has got an understanding of council issues because he was a councillor before he became a Member of Parliament. Good evening, Mayor. How are you?
That during the time when I was being chased away, and during the time when we were trying to do by-elections, we realized that there was a contract, and we came back. We realized that there was a contract that was done by the council, which contract was effectively to say that the landlord, we have owned the Pomona dumpsite for years now. Suddenly, that dump site was being given to this company called Geogenics, and that company will put a fence and will start paying it more like Wange, mining its coal, mines the coal and asks ZESA to get the coal to make electricity. And instead of ZESA paying Wange, Wange pays ZESA to get the electricity. Not only do you pay ZESA, pay the energy provider.
We are losing you. Can you keep your phone close to where you are?
Okay. So that is where the issue became, where the council is supposed to pay the energy provider for using its source of energy. So we pay. Then ironically also we are the landlord. And as the landlord, we're supposed again to pay the lessee for using our energy source. Not only that, we're not going to get assistance from that company to bring the rubbish to the dump site. We have to do it on our own dime. If we fail to do so, there's a guaranteed minimum, and we will pay that guaranteed minimum to the service provider. We are also supposed.
Can you bring your phone closer to you, because it's like a bit hollow. How much is the guaranteed minimum again for those who have just joined us now?
Well, the guaranteed minimum is you pay $40 per ton. Now it starts with 500 tons in the first year, then in the fifth year it's 1,000 tons. So for the 30 years, you're going to be paying $40,000 per day, and this is net. Then there's a gross amount of VAT and so forth. So the figure keeps going up and up and up. So it's a whole lot of money, which is the guaranteed minimum.
What are you paying for, Mayor?
We don't know. No one knows. The contract does not say, because firstly, we don't know where the energy is going and who it's going to be used by. Then secondly, we are the ones paying for this company to use the rubbish. So we don't know why we are paying and what are we paying for. We are going to bring the rubbish. So basically, this is better. It's a contract better than winning a contract. A person has just hit the jackpot in a casino of corruption. It's the casino of corruption, and as corruption goes, this is the ultimate. Where in the world can you find a situation where you come to a landlord, put a fence around his property, and he pays you all that amount of money, and if he does not do the things you've asked him to do, you punish him by getting a minimum. So as of now, I'm not convinced. Why are we paying for? What are we paying for? Because no one knows when the energy plant will be built, whether after 30 years it will be useful. Is there a deadline? Immediately as they got the thing, they started charging.
So, Mayor,
So
when was this conceptualized and who conceptualized it? This deal?
well, this deal I have no idea. I know that previously a tender had been put out in the past years before I was councillor. The tender was not adjudicated upon. I think it was done twice. Those tenders were not adjudicated upon. And it looks like this company then bypassed the tender process and then put in honey clauses for itself, whereby it guarantees upon the signature. So the only expense that this company has gone through is probably the pen it used to sign the agreement. That's the only conceivable expense that I can see. Maybe the day they signed the agreement with council, they bought a few pens and used those pens to sign. That is the money that they have expended. Otherwise,
So for clarity, Mayor, the Supreme Court put out a ruling taking the political party away from Nelson Chamisa and giving it to Douglas Monzora. You guys were recalled from council, some were recalled from parliament. So is that the period in which these things were done? Is it correct to say that this deal was done by Monzora's councillors in ZANU-PF?
Yes, this deal was done by Monzora's councillors and ZANU-PF. We were recalled. I was being chased left, right, and center. And it was done just before the elections, just because they knew that the Triple C councillors would come in and the Triple C councillors would never agree to this contract. So they made sure that this contract was signed just before we came in, or the swearing in ceremony, so that it would be a fait accompli. We will be given something that has already been done, so that they will not have the problems, because we're obviously, as Triple C, going to question, we're going to reject the clauses which says we should pay as the landlord, we should pay for our own property, we should pay to bring the rubbish. Even if we don't bring, we should pay. When we cancel the contract, we should pay. It was made and designed in such a way that the council is going to pay whichever direction it moves in.
So it did not go to tender. It was a gift which was given to this company. Who are the people involved in this company?
The people involved, from what I gather, and the investigation, is Geogenics. There's Delish Nguwawa, that is their local representative. The other characters are the usual characters that have been with Geogenics for some time. So beyond that, we have no clue. The due diligence was not done properly. The whole contract was pushed hurriedly.
Now, in Albania, the same contract was put in place, and the citizens of Albania protested against it, and it was stopped. 14 ministers were fired in order to save the prime minister who had done this deal because he's close to the guy from Geogenics. What are you planning to do as a council if Rusty Makam goes to court and he fails?
Well, look, we like what you were saying. This whole process needs to be reviewed. This whole contract needs to be reviewed. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be put under the microscope to ensure that we don't allow the ratepayers to be taken for a ride. Our duty as councillors is to act in the best interest of council, and acting in the best interest of council is preventing such a deal from going forward. I don't think that the people in government were fully briefed about this thing. I can't imagine anybody finding a positive in this deal. No one I've spoken to has found a positive in and out of government. No one can point to me any clause in this contract that has a positive impact for the residents. It is just not on. It was legally designed to trap council, to fleece council, to make sure that they extract more than a pound of flesh from council. So, under no circumstance can anyone find a justification. This is a contract which is contrary to public morals. It is a contract which has no merit at all, as far as I can see.
Now, what you have talked about, the reviews and so forth, these are the procedures that probably Rusty Makam will be going through in court. My question is, if you don't get the court judgment in your favor and the government plows along with the deal regardless, as they've always done with many other things, what are the options available to you?
No. We are council. We can go to council. Resolutions of council are done by council. We have a right as a council to vote against such a deal, to reverse such a deal, to amend any section of that deal as we deem fit in the interests of the residents. And our options are not limited to that. We can and are able to make a resolution that simply cancels the deal.
So, in the event that the deal is cancelled, what are the cancellation consequences? What are the legal implications to the council and to the citizens of the residents of Harare?
Well, it is a kick-in clause that says if it's cancelled prematurely, Harare City Council owes that company $3.5 million, and probably the amount of money that is accruing on a day-to-day basis as we speak. And that probably is what would be the downside in the contract should you cancel it prematurely. But that sounds better than paying all those amounts of money for something that will never materialize, that will not come to fruition.
Now, can you take us through the correct procedures of coming up with such a contract in terms of you tender? What are the processes? And can you explain which processes were not done in this contract?
Well, I'll have to be a bit careful here because there's a pending case, and I'll be as specific as I can safely be, because I'm a respondent and the council is a respondent. But
sure, just share what you need to share. Don't feel pressured to share things that we don't need to know. If there are implications on your case, by any means, please keep them to yourself. But just let the audience understand what can be shared.
Yes, what's very clear is that the best international practice for contracts such as this is to have an open tender system, to invite as many tenders as possible to put the cards on the table. They are advertised. We have a whole PRAS, a whole institution that is there, that governs how public entities contract. You need the opening of the bids. You need to have the presentations of the bids. You need to have the adjudication of the bids, the point scoring. After that is done, if there are people who are unhappy, they need to complain. If their complaints are dealt with, you then can then make a final decision. And all these processes are public processes open to examination. Where we have what we have here is that this contractor got exemptions left, right, and center for any of the processes that are required. They had an exemption for the feasibility studies, an exemption to tender, an exemption to go advertise, and a whole lot of other sweeteners, that they were given.
Now, there is the issue of today. There was a document that was circulating. I just want to say to the listeners that for the purposes of reading more and understanding, I've pinned an article by Zim Live, which is on top of the space. Please feel free to bookmark it. You can read it later after we end this space, so that you get to understand more. In a few minutes, I'll pin the procurement regulatory authority of Zimbabwe processing on Twitter, to follow Rust Markham on Twitter. Rust Markham's Twitter handle is Kataza Mondoro. And the mayor of Harare, his Twitter handle is at J Mafume. Follow them. It's important to have these discussions. These are big monies that we're talking about. And most of you, whether you live in Harare or not, whether you are living abroad at the moment and you're not living in Harare, that is supposed to build a clinic in Shendambuya. So don't take the attitude that this is an Harare issue. It's not an Harare issue. It's a Zimbabwean issue that we must all grapple with. Now, the member of parliament, Rust Markham, mentioned, Mayor, that the stakeholders were not consulted. Why were the stakeholders not consulted? And what is the process of consulting stakeholders? How does it work?
Well, it should have come to council. Council should have gone to the residents, public meetings, presentations. This is a public asset. It's been there for some time. We need an idea of why we need the energy, how we're going to do it, what are the other recycling processes that Rusty was talking about, and other options that we have. Rubbish, as you know, is an asset. And there is a lot of things that come to it. There's metal, there's things that can be recycled, and so on. The list goes on, the best international practices. But with such an odious contract, they were never going to consult. Anyone who is consulted will disagree with this. Anyone who is bona fide and wants to act in the best interest of the country will disagree with it. The city will not benefit. The residents will not benefit. How do they benefit? From paying the leasee of their own property. Somebody comes and says, I'm leasing your property, and he says, pay me rent. And even if they don't stay there, you pay them rent. It is insulting. It is so. It's the nerve. You see, the ability to do this to a people. How you need to have a total lack of respect of the people that you are dealing with to do a kind of thing. You need to think that these people are fools, that these people cannot do anything to you. It's the uttermost lack of respect by a government to its own people. They don't care. We are nothing. We don't think they will do anything and get away with it. They will take your property, put a fence, and ask you to pay rentals. And they're even doing it. They have been now doing it for 15 days, giving people invoice. There's no shame. There's no iota of shame, no iota of respect of the citizens. It's unbelievable in its daring nature, unbelievable that people accept it to this level.
Now, why was this deal first approved in cabinet before it was approved in council? Is it not supposed to be the other way around?
It's supposed to be the other way around. The idea for approving it in cabinet is to put pressure on council, because without Triple C, we were not there. The other people, if they hear cabinet, they quake in their boots. Those who want to leak their shoes, they leak. Those who are afraid, they are afraid. You know, this was a reward system where the Mutizwa, who has basically, as the acting mayor, sold his soul to ZANU-PF. We had MDC Alliance councillors who are basically ZANU-PF light. So this is part of a looting enterprise, a stealing enterprise, a self-aggrandizement, primitive accumulation of money. So these are people who design schemes to steal. So probably it was meant to give it a stamp of authority, but I don't understand whether the whole of cabinet participated in this, because surely, with these facts, how do they come? With these facts, how do they come?
Zimbabwe to also ask you questions.
Can I just come in?
No, just wait a minute, Rust. I'm just bringing some people on top, but you want to add to this? Please go ahead, Rusty.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to add this issue of fleecing city of Harare is a major problem, and it hasn't started just today. It's just got bolder. If you look at the licensing for Zinara, we used to collect the licenses at district office here, and then retain some of the money and give the balance to the central treasury. Now that changed, and it all went under Zinara, and they take the money and then they're supposed to give it back to us. The Zinara funds at City of Harare are being given since I was a councillor, so we're talking 8 years, 9 years, is less than 10% of what is required or what should be given to us. So what is happening with Zinara, we don't have licensing, so we lose that revenue of income to fix the roads. Zinara pay, as I said, they retain the cost of running everything, and they pay someone 18%, a company called Univen. If you add the 18% plus the cost of collection, they, in a dollar, they're losing 32 cents. That is fact. That's not made up. It's in the Public Accounts Committee first report for the year for this sitting parliament. Now, that means if they reverted back to the council collecting and gave council, because they've got the infrastructure to collect already, gave council 32% and then still sent all the rest of the money to Zinara, Zinara would be receiving the same money and we'd have 32 cents in the dollar for every car in Harare to fix the roads. But they won't do that. And this is where this deal is modeled. The other major issue, I just want to point out to the people of who are listening here, ZESA was formed on a centralization thing, and it's a good thing. But they took over the Harare power station. That Harare power station was built with residents' money, including the offices, the infrastructure, ZESA, Zakaba Munomo Harare. And when it was put into ZESA, Tagapiwachi, nothing. And no one complained. And then we cry now because everything's getting stolen. This issue on Pomona is duplicated across the whole of every single council in Zimbabwe where council land is being stolen and given to anyone and everyone, particularly big corporates. And the councils get nothing from these people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rusty. I guess after Harare, if there is no resistance, they'll move to Bulawayo. That's why I was saying that every Zimbabwean must really care about this and pay attention to it, because it could be coming to your city, this deal. Now, I want to open up and allow people to ask questions, comments. Let's keep it tight, 2 minutes max. If it's a question, 1 minute. If it's comments, 2 minutes, so that we can get as many people to ask the questions. This is a very important issue. I have pinned the Procurement Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe processes that the mayor was talking about. I've pinned them on top of this space. You can go and bookmark the tweet, retweet it, so that as many people can read these things, so that when we discuss on social media, we discuss with knowledge and not speculation. I want to say this to Zimbabweans who are listening. These are the things that we need to be paying attention to and talking about every day. Let's not waste our time fighting with Varakashi over insults. These are bread and butter issues that are going to affect how the city is run when your children are your age today. These are the things you had both Honorable Malcolm and Mayor Mafume saying, this is a 30-year deal. I'm 51 years old today. In 30 years, I'll be 81 years old. Add 30 years to your age. This is how much it matters to you today. I see a lot of people take a discount approach when dealing with these things. These are the things that should even be on a campaign for political parties to say, this is what we're going to do. This is what we are going to undo, because these are serious issues. If you can't get your rubbish picked up, if you end up in a situation where the whole system is dysfunctional. Zimbabwe has collapsed because a few are looting public funds. And each time there's a financial crisis, they throw the bill to RBZ. They go to parliament because they have a majority. They come up with a law, the reconstruction law, whatever you call it. And then they say the citizens are going to pay. So you need to pay attention to these things. In other cities like Johannesburg, this would never happen at all. So we need to reflect as Zimbabweans and ask ourselves, at what point are we going to say enough? At what point are we going to say we will not allow deals that will fleece our pockets and leave us with nothing? Now, Salani, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Hopewell. What a fantastic space as always. You are definitely our gem in Zimbabwe. Keep up the great work. You know, this topic, it makes you so angry when you hear the details of how it was carried out. And the fact that we have unscrupulous characters breeding more unscrupulous characters there. I mentioned yesterday on Open Parley the issue of the timing of this agreement that was made. And it was at a time where we had our by-elections, 26th of March. So even the timing, it was to ensure that the voice of the people, especially representatives of citizens, would not be heard, and that there would be no sort of ways in which opposition leaders would be able to question it. So having said that, my question here is, how do we as citizens, I like what you said there, this affects every single Zimbabwe. You're absolutely right, because it will happen in another city. And to be honest with you, citizens have got so much power, and the buck definitely stops where the citizens are. If we say we do not want something and we come together and stop this, we surely can. So my question, not wanting to waste too much time, is how can we citizens help and ensure that this does not go ahead?
Thank you very much. In terms of as Africans, we use seniority. Rusty, you're the elder. Go ahead, and then the mayor can come in.
Yeah, well, look, I've always said, and I started this when I joined public service. I've always said, we're in a situation now where we're stuck. You either do it yourself, or you just accept it's going to get worse. You've got to, and then the next thing is you've got to ask the question. Me going to court is not a personal issue. I don't know any of these characters. It's not a personal issue, but it's wrong. So I've asked the question in court, and none of my court cases that I've taken on, and there are numerous of them, the issue is not personal, but it's wrong. And so I'm asking the question. I'm not asking the question for me. I'm asking the question for my children and my grandchildren. All my children and all my grandchildren are in the diaspora. And why are they there? Because there's nothing here for them. I want them back here. So the citizens and the residents of Zimbabwe must be able to ask the question. You must ask the question of your councillor, your mayor, your MP, your government, your cabinet. Just because someone says it's approved by cabinet doesn't make it right. We want to know why it was approved by cabinet. We want to know why the minister is interfering with council activities. And I'll tell you something, if you add those two things, there is no one to do anything there unless they've got serious political cover right from the top. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor, go ahead. Your microphone is muted. Can you unmute yourself, Mayor?
Yes, I think court action, like what Rusty has done, is key, but also public protest. People must learn to protest, petitions, letters, demonstrations, whatever. That is how policymakers make decisions. People must know we are disgusted. Phone calls, social media, everything. We as politicians respond to that. We respond to outrage. We respond to physical outrage. We respond to outrage that we can see. So we need people to be alert. And it's been a creep on resources. It's been a creep. They took Zupco, which was run by city councils, milked it dry. Now it's a shell. They took Zesa, together with the buildings, the wiring and everything. They didn't even pay for it. They took Zinwa at one point with the water and everything. They took the dams. The last dam to be built in Harare was in 1976. They now they are going after the dump sites. Others are going after the stadium. They are going after everything that the residents built, the Harare residents built with their own money and sweat. They took the roads. So everything that people have built with their money and sweat, they come after. And at some point, we need to be able to say, stop, we're not giving you this. And we move on as residents and citizens.
Now, Mayor, there are revelations that a South African firm was legally appointed as consultant without the PRA's involvement in it, according to the letter that I've pinned on top there. What can you tell us about this?
That the contractor was given the liberty to choose their own needed to have a procurement process of its own, so that an independent assessment on the figures and models that we are using for this process can be done by somebody or by a group that is independent. Without that, what that means is that a consultant that was selected might have had a predetermined outcome, and the feasibility study is therefore contaminated.
No, thank you very much. KK, please go ahead.
Thank you, Oppo. Thank you to our speakers. This is a very important issue. it cuts to the heart of the many issues that we are facing in our country. So I thank you for that. So my question is to do firstly with the counterclaim that is being made in certain circles that perhaps maybe our mayor would be able to answer me on that one. That there wasn't any movement whatsoever from the city council for many years. Now that we've got something that seemingly from obviously those quotas would be beneficial to Harare and its residents, all of a sudden everybody is up and is fighting. Then I got to think about the deal that I also participated in as an entrepreneur, Clean City, and I wonder what happened, because I understand the end goal was recycling, and if this was already in the city discourse and its engagements.
Thank you very much, KK. I'll allow the mayor to respond. Your first question, I just want to say that the issue is not about people not wanting the development. The issue is the nature of the contract which is bringing the development. It's like in a village, you have got kids that do not have shoes. Then eventually someone turns up with shoes and they want to give them shoes in exchange for your beast, for your cattle. When you protest to that, it's not that you don't want the kids to wear the shoes, but you're saying the cost of getting those shoes is high. That's my understanding, but I'll allow the mayor to proceed. Mayor, please, can you answer him?
You said it in a nutshell. It is not, we are not reinventing the wheel here. Waste to energy projects are all over the world. There's nothing magical or inventive about what they are going to do. That's why I was talking about best international practice. What we just require is best international practice. Yes, a renewable energy might have a subsidy, but it is a defined subsidy. And we also need to know, what are they bringing to the table besides the fence? Is there a ratio in the investment? Is there $1 to $3 brought in ratio? Or the residents are paying to get the energy source and are paying to give someone the energy source? You would agree with me that this is ridiculous. It just does not make sense and has never happened anywhere in the world, and does not need to begin to happen in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. So when people ask questions, I'm going to drop them after they ask their questions so that we can bring more people. There's a question here that has been asked in my inbox. Mayor, you are the lawyer. The lady says, is there no possibility of private prosecution against Monzora's councillors for doing this? Hello, Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Well, look, that's why we said the whole deal needs to be reviewed. And one can see, yes, there's a possibility for private prosecution if it is determined that there are criminal elements in the contract. It is a criminal contract. It is devilish contract. It is certainly a contract that defies logic and common sense. And one wonders, what are the motives except to loot money? So all the options are there. But I think in the first instance, people should look on how to mitigate this damage and protect the residents.
Thank you very much. Magasela, please go ahead. Magasela, can you hear me? Your microphone is muted. All right. Big Nine, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Hopo. I think when I was listening, I heard something around to the effect that this contract will be financed partly with money from the devolution fund. But we all know that the devolution bill has not even been put through Parliament. It's not even been aligned with the Constitution. How are they able to draw funds from it when there is no law that allows them?
Check it. Your microphone, Mayor, is muted.
Okay, thank you. We have a very oxymoronic situation with the devolution funds. We have not had a devolution legislation, but the devolution funds are being distributed and are being used. Part of the emergency road program is using the devolution funds. Many of the programs and equipment that are being bought by councils is using the devolution funds. But what is happening is that because central government wants to take credit for the devolution funds, it is finding it difficult to let go the use of the devolution funds and are contracting from the center. So they will wake up and say they've built your road, let's say Masochangrove. They've built that road. But when they do the books, they will then say, we gave Harare so much in devolution funds. But they've contracted everything and they've used the money at central government level. All you become is a recipient. So the challenge is that the devolution funds are being used outside the legal framework. If you listen to Themba Mliswa, he has raised that point time and time again in Parliament about the use of the devolution funds and the consequent lack of accountability.
Hopo, can I say a word?
Yes, please go ahead.
You might have missed it earlier on in my introduction. The devolution fund, the issue of the bill coming to Parliament and the legislation being passed, I took that to court and I won the case. They then introduced a bill which didn't last 6 months. I don't think it even got to being debated. So they then withdrew it and nothing's happened since then. So for 3 years, devolution funds, which is 5% of the national budget, as I said before, is handed out by one person and one person only, and that's the Minister of Local Government. He says he consults. He does not consult. City of Harare don't know which road is going to be repaired next. The ERRF, the Emergency Road Repair Fund and Program, I have asked 7 times in Parliament for the list of roads because we're getting roads being jumped. And that's wrong as well, because we go and build a road to a minister and Hatcliffe hasn't had tar for 20 years. So those frustrations are all there, and it's there to the lady or someone asked us regards this agreement. And the benefit of getting it going.
Honorable Makam, for the job that you are doing to safeguard the interests of the resident of Harare. My question is now to the mayor and Mr. Makam to say, we all know that when this deal was passed, it was when there were recalls, and later on now we have got our MPs and councillors. And I wanted to ask the mayor that did you have any meetings with the councillors so that they can go up to speed with this deal and other dealings of the council? Because I'm one of the groups on our CC platforms, and it seems some of our councillors, they don't even know about this deal. And also, is there any plan to make sure that the councillors are equipped to go out there and spread the word to the residents of Harare? And also in Parliament, have you done also the same to have a meeting as Triple C to say, let's talk about this deal and what is the way forward What can we do so that resident can get involved? Like you said, we need to have some action plan, some demonstrations. But a resident, for him to demonstrate, they need information. They need to know the reason why. And in Zimbabwe at the moment, Zimbabweans, we are deprived of information because we all know that we only have what said BC, and some of the people there, they don't have the privilege to go and buy the newspapers. So, is there anything being done in that regard? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max. Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. All our councillors, the Triple C councillors, to the last are well aware of this deal. They are aware of the party position to this deal. We reject it with the contempt it deserves. We are not part of it, and we will not be part of it any day longer than is necessary. So that position is very clear. They should be able to articulate it in whatever form, language they are able to use. They are fluent in Shona. They should be able to articulate the evils of this deal in that language. So we are very clear about this. We will sensitize our MPs. Rusty is one of them, and they've held meetings, and all our MPs are understanding, the whole 19 of them, of the impact of this bill.
No, thank you very much. In terms of the going to court, what would be the most ideal thing, Mayor? Is it to scrap this whole arrangement, go to tender again, and allow players to come in and judge on the basis of what they are offering, or it's fixing this deal and going with the same outfit?
Going to tender is always the best. That's the best international practice. People must understand that these practices are not set up for inconvenience. They are set up to protect the people, to protect the city, to protect everybody involved, so that we can all make decisions and be able to deal with any issues that might arise like this one. If this had gone to tender, the adjudicating authority would have said, hang on, why are we paying $40 per ton? Why do we have guaranteed minimums? Why are we the one paying when we are the landlord? All these questions would have been asked. Because we didn't go to tender, we produced a mutated contract.
Thank you very much, Mayor. MJ, please go ahead.
Hi, Hope. Thank you for the opportunity. Just be around the way this deal is structured. I think it's an insult to the residents because, I mean, I deal with a lot of energy investors and all over the world. This is not how these deals are done. I know like there's a lot of capex involved in terms of structuring energy deals, but I feel like if it was going to happen, personally, I think Harare does not need this because we don't have enough waste to feed into the plant. But if it was going to happen, the way it should happen is the developer comes in, set up the plant, takes the waste from Harare at no cost. City of Harare shouldn't be paying to offload their waste. All over the world, how IPPs develop these projects, they will say, give us your waste, we will generate electricity and supply you with electricity, and you pay for the electricity. But looking at it from the way it's structured, I don't think we have enough waste. I don't think we need it. Appearance around this case, we need to be there as well as citizens, not just wait, to see the politicians must do everything. There's a lot of pressure that we can do as well to support this case, just picketing outside the court, submitting petitions, and a whole lot of stuff. Yeah, that's my contribution, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. MJ seems to be a very knowledgeable person in terms of these issues. Follow him, engage with him. When he spoke about IPP, some might wonder what it is. IPP is independent power producers. So it's separate from ZESA. ZESA, it's government. So when he said IPP, is referring to independent power producers. Thank you very much, MJ, for that contribution. Can we have Elias Mambo? Elias Mambo, can you hear me? Your microphone is muted.
I can hear you. Thank you, Hope. Thank you to the listeners. My contribution here is this. I think I spent the whole day talking about this deal across the political divide, and it seems it's affecting everyone. Despite their political affiliation. I think if we can push as citizens and stop politicizing the whole issue, I think we are going to win this thing. But once it becomes a politicized, yes, in as much as we know the characters who have influenced the signing of this deal, we know their political affiliations, but not every ZANU PF person is happy. So let's push it from a citizen perspective, like what MJ has said. Let's not focus on politics, but focus on canceling this deal. It doesn't matter a person is affiliated to ZANU PF or Triple C or to the Mondora outfit. All those who are going to lose are citizens. I think the Hararians right now are angry and they are not looking at their political affiliation. Thanks, all.
Thank you very much, Elias. Last night you held a space. Are there any new details that you have heard from our sources?
Yes, Hope. Yes, I've engaged also quite a number of people, especially the guys. Yes, they've washed their hands. They are out of this. So it basically means this was not done procedurally. So we are digging deeper. We will get to know what's happening. We will get to know who are the beneficiaries of this deal. Thank you, Hope.
Thank you so much, Elias, for that. Can we have Chief, and then after Chief, we have Marunga.
All right, thank you, Hope.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you, Hope. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also thank you, Honorable Macam. I have a quick question. In as much as this deal is really, really infuriating me, I hate everything about it. But then I assume, or I thought I heard you mention that one of the very faces of this deal is a man named Devolution. Now, is this the same Devolution that almost swindled us of $60 million in a shady deal where face masks were exaggerated, the prices of face masks were exaggerated up to $5 a face mask? If it's the same person, then I'm wondering.
It is the same person. It is the same person. He's the representatives of this Albanian company.
Wondering how could we be beaten twice by the same person? It doesn't make sense for us to be swindled by the same person twice in a space of a year. Who is handling it? Who is?
Yeah, Chief, we seem to have lost you there.
This
but
stinks high heavens. So who is handling this guy?
Thank you.
Because
Thank
as
you
far as
very
I'm
much,
concerned,
Chief,
if
for that.
somebody like this has come to parliament or has come to government and offered them a deal where they feel that they've been swindled and comes again within a space of a year and tries to, and I said I go to
we seem to have lost Chief there, but I think we had the gist of his question. He was asking whether it was the same. Yes, it is the same team. It is the same company. It is the same representative in Harare. It's the same people. There is a question, Mayor, for you here in my inbox. Hi, Hopewell. How does the mayor and the councillors plan to spread the information so that every resident of Harare is made aware of this deal? Are there going to be any public meetings and public awareness campaigns?
Yes, our councillors are holding regular, and now we need irregular public meetings that are more frequent. They are going to the consultants. I've done 3. I did one in Arcadia, Mfakosi, and I did one in Mount Pleasant on Saturday. We have instructed all our councillors to go to the people. We will have a public meeting. We will have a virtual public meeting, and we will discuss and get guidance from the citizens as to the way forward, and also give them our recommendation as to how we feel we need to proceed.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Marunga.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Paul. So my question is directed to the mayor. In February of, I think, 2022, this year, we had the government did say there was going to be a public service reform program, and they did mention something about, I think it was performance-based assessments. So my question is that started? And then the second question, are these ministries responsible for, or are they obligated to rather, produce public documents at regular intervals outlining their spending, their budgets, or just a forecast, a forecast so that the public knows what's happening, or, what are their priorities and what they plan to do? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor, please go ahead.
Yes, I mean, on paper, the government has rolled out a performance-based system and what they are calling a program-based management system. The problem is not in the framework. The framework reads like every other framework of delivering government. The devil or the detail is in the implementation. It's all there on paper, but implementing it is something else. Otherwise, if it was being implemented properly, something like this would not have been able to go through. So we have that challenge, that what we have on paper and what is happening on the ground, it's opposite to what is on the paper.
Thank you very much. Taona. Taona, please go ahead. Your microphone is muted. Can we, jump to Mambo Sose and we go to Son of Thunder after, in that order? Mambo Sose, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Opo. Let me just back here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, our mayor and everyone else who has brought this issue to the public arena. A lot of people do not even know about what is going on. So I just want to encourage everyone here that we have heard, we know that this deal is rotten, it's stinking. Let's not just hear and then forget about it. Let's actually get angry, with this, because I'm sure everyone here, from what you have heard and from yesterday's space, you should be getting angry. And when we get angry, let's act. So I want to call everyone to do something, do not just hear things and then, keep quiet about it. If you can go on Facebook and do a program there. Some people are even doing programs on WhatsApp. Let's go on WhatsApp and do something. We can also do something as citizens. Let's come up with a petition. I know a lot of people will be saying we have done many petitions, but many petitions do not succeed because Zimbabweans do not sign them. Citizens do not sign them. You need many signatures. So if we can come up with a petition, let it be out there so that we begin to speak with one voice. This is not an issue for residents in Harare only. If we allow this to happen, it's going to happen in Mutare, it's going to happen in Mulawayo. Even we guys, you guys in the diaspora, this should be your issue as well. We should be finding time to make noise about it. Your relatives are there in Harare. Your friends and family are there in Harare. And one way or another, we are going to end up paying for this deal. They can hide and say, other things that it's not going to be paid by the residents, but
Yeah, we seem to be losing you, Mambo. So
that citizen, every. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, but I think you have made your point. We've heard your point.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
now? Well, we've lost him. I think he's made his point. His point is that as citizens, we need to make sure that we pay attention to this issue. It's not about Rusty Markham, the MP for Harare North, or the mayor of Harare and the councillors. It is about everybody. Even if you don't live in Harare, if you're driving through the city and spending the night, the cost of removing rubbish from your hotel room is going to be added on that hotel room fee that you pay, because there's always a hidden cost to everything. And that hidden cost, you might not know that this is what I'm paying for, but one day you shouldn't be surprised where you were paying your hotel room for $80, you'll be paying maybe $90 because the hotel will factor in. In fact, what you guys need to understand is that this company has started charging in US dollars. The city collects its rates in RTGS. So in real terms, the cost of moving rubbish from our homes has gone up because the greenback is much stronger than RTGS. So this is something to take seriously. You must discuss with your parents, with your kids, with your grandparents. It's a big issue. There's never been a bigger issue in the life of Harare as this issue. That's how important it is. Of course, the next biggest issue is that perhaps when the mayor comes, we would want him to be an executive mayor and have proper powers and not be somebody who's kicked around by the likes of July Moyo. Son of Thunder, please go ahead.
Sorry, Hoppo, before the next speaker, can I kindly ask citizens on the platform to retweet the space? The beautiful part about Twitter now, it actually lets us know how many retweets of the space have happened, and we've got over 900 people here. It'll be lovely if they could support by just retweeting the space, please.
Yeah, thank you, my darling Solani. I'm happy to let you know that without having consulted you, when we are done with this space, I'm going to hand it over to you so that the citizens can have a conversation after the mayor and the member of parliament, Rusty Markham, are gone. So Rusty and Mayor, are you good for time? 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I can do another 15.
15. Okay, so we'll go for another 15 minutes, and then after that, I will hand over the space to Solani, and people can have a reflection space where they talk about these things. So Tawana, are you there, Tawana?
Good day. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Tawana.
Thank you.
Can you speak up, Tawana? We can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. I think I would say that especially so. Hello.
Hello. Tawana, we are having problem hearing you. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Just hold us.
Hello.
Hello, Jamila. Please go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say that we really appreciate that we've been exposed to such information. I've been following this space and realized that we have more than 1,000 people who are listening. And it's very unfortunate that in 1 million people, in a million plus people who are residing in Harare and the rest of the country, it's only a few who have been exposed to this information, and most probably they won't even know much about it. So it will do good for us and others if we were to spread this word physically on the streets to our neighbors and everyone. Most people don't even know that this is happening in their country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's important to spread the message. That's what Jamila is saying. Perhaps the mayor and his councillors and Triple C need to do what I do every day, break it down so that people can understand what it means to them personally. If it's 40,000 US dollars a day, you should be able to explain to people that Harare Hospital only has one theater that is working, maternity theater. The government has never built any theater at Harare Hospital. It's the biggest hospital. So what they are essentially doing, the city council is donating one maternity theater to this company every day. Then people will get to understand what it means to them and what that money could have been used for if it was deployed properly. Thank you very much, Jamila. Maxwell, please go ahead. Maxwell, unmute your mic. Can you hear me, Maxwell Songweme? Okay, Kanye, can you hear me? Kanye, can you hear me? This guy seems to be Vimbai. Vimbai, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Hopewell.
Go
Can
ahead,
you hear me?
Vimbai.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I can hear the beautiful voice with a beautiful name. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, you're so charming. Thank you so much, Hopewell, Maya, Rusty, and everybody in this space. I want to thank you. I just had, obviously, I want to start by thanking you for this information. When I first saw it a few months ago, I did question why these tenders are never exposed to Zimbabwean nationals. And it's not necessarily just the Zimbabwean nationals in Zimbabwe, but some of us who are in diaspora. We would love to be given the opportunities to come back and invest in the building and the development of our country. Rusty mentioned it and articulated it very clearly that his grandchildren and children are in diaspora and he wants them back home. Now, some of us in diaspora do want to come back home, but unfortunately, there's nothing for us. I work for a multi-billion Asian company, and I live in England. And that multi-billion Asian company, when it was now being given tenders in UK, one of the requirements for them to be given that tender was they were supposed to build a college for the locals. So that's the locals benefit. So it's not only the company benefiting from trading in the UK, but the locals are benefiting as well. So they opened an engineering college, and that college has been sponsoring young people in these developments. And if I told you the company, you'd all know, but they are doing really big things in the world right now. And one of those things is because they have invested in the locals. So my question is in two parts. The first part is, which I've already asked, why do they not give these benefits or give this information to Zimbabwean nationals? And then if there's no Zimbabwean national that can step up, then fine, let's open it up to the international investors. However, every international investor has to be required in that tender, in that contract, to invest in locals. And some of that investment has to be, you're going to open a college, you're going to sponsor computers, you're going to open a clinic. What are the requirements of that local area by making that area that you're investing in, those people you're investing in, they have to be shareholders. So it's something to consider maybe from now and later on in the future, but Zim nationals are not benefiting from their own country, and that's really sad. And that's me. Thank you, Hopewell, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Lady V. What you have just said is the very thing that the mayor, the councillors, and Triple C should be saying to us as citizens. I'm sure Honorable Rusty will agree with me that if citizens are told that this could have been your project, we have Zimbabwean citizens who have worked in independent power producing projects. We have Zimbabwean citizens who have got access to capital, but these deals are being given to foreigners and Zimbabweans are not getting them. That is the quickest way of making people understand how they are being shortchanged, how they are being shoved by this government. This deal could have been a group of Zimbabweans who have put their money together. It could have been run by a group of Zimbabwean engineers who already work in independent power producing projects, who could actually bring a much cheaper resource asset for the city of Harare. But this language, we're not hearing it. So Mayor and Honorable Rasta, I think this is some homework for you to discuss with your colleagues in terms of framing these things. They must be framed properly so that if you fail to get this thing undone, it becomes an election issue to say, when you come back, if you vote for us, we are going to give this deal to Zimbabweans. Because ZANU-PF talks about Zimbabweans all the time. But here's evidence that it's actually giving these deals to foreigners. It's either the Chinese, now the Albanians, drugs again, those Albanians. Zimbabweans can actually do these things, and they have the money in the diaspora to do these things. But ZANU-PF is not giving opportunities to Zimbabweans. It's giving them to foreigners. And these are the issues that must be hammered home every day. Right now, we have got about 1,000 something people here. If 1,000 of you tweet this issue, it will go far. That's how people get to engage and understand what actually this deal means. So before Vimbai spoke, we were talking about how bad the deal is in terms of structuring. But she has brought in another important point. This deal is not actually for us. We're just paying money and it's going away. So these are things that we need to reflect on. Pami,
Hopeful, can I buttress that, please?
Okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
Rusty.
Look, the point brought up there is fantastic and it's noted. I've actually written it down. A very good point. I'd just like to draw attention to exactly what's been brought up. In 2016, one of the tenders was a local Zimbabwean company with part diaspora money, who was going to have an Asian bank backing them, and they were going to build it. The beauty of that was it's not this deal. It was a PPP where the city of Harare would throw in the land, they would throw in their waste management setup, and they would get, on an independent valuation, they would get a percentage of the business. So straight away, you've got us as residents taken care of, we've got an interest, and we're now building something together with the fellow Zimbabweans. The shocker was they also offered to put up a very small, I want to call it tertiary, but apprenticeship, not college either. It's a very small apprenticeship in Hatcliffe for the benefit of those residents, because they thought those people would be the people working at the plant. That deal was totally shut down. That tender was never even answered. That company is still running in Zimbabwe. When I asked them about this the other day, they said, forget it, I'm not interested in any of these tenders anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Honorable Rusty. Pami, please go ahead. Can you hear me, Pami?
Yes, I can hear you, Hopko. Thank you very much. And thank you for holding this space. My question was on the idea to pay £3 million or $3 million. And if that is the case, is it not setting a wrong precedence that someone just comes in because they don't follow due procedure, and they can go ahead and if it fails and gain from whatever money is paid from maybe that there was breach of contract because due procedure wasn't followed. Why would you still have to pay 3 million? And is it not setting a wrong precedence to whoever wants to come and abuse whatever powers there are, and then maybe pocket 3 million that they can share amongst themselves? Thank you.
Can I take that one?
Sure, Rusty, go ahead.
Hopewell, I believe sinisterly that maybe that's the reason this contract is there. So you can walk away with $3.5 million. But having said that, let the courts decide what's going to happen there. My issue is this. This is setting the wrong precedent. It's not the first time it's happened. It's not the last time. City of Harare has had numerous payments in previous councils, including when I was there, where they prepaid someone to do a job and the guy never did the job. We have an outstanding issue here of $3 million, which were paid for waste management trucks, which have never arrived in City of Harare. Now my issue is this. This is happening all the time, and you can see the problem. If there's a loophole, close the darn thing, but government's not closing the loophole. Now, if it's happening with City of Harare with these huge contacts, what do you think's happening at national government level? And that is my question. My thing is not personal. I've said that 100 times. My issue is close the loopholes. We as an opposition have offered to help to sort out the problem, but they don't want to sort out the problem because they're reaping the benefits. And my issue is this: as citizens, even the councillors who voted for this thing or were pushed into a corner to vote for this thing must now account to us as residents. You ask what residents must do. Go to your councillor. The 18 names are available. You go to them and say, why did you vote for this? What are you going to do about it now? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor, could you make the names available to us? And then, unfortunately, it's too late now. We could have tweeted them. But make the names available to us tomorrow and we'll tweet that. Vimbai asked an important question, and I've tweeted this question. Important question. Why is it that ZANU-PF is always giving these deals to foreign companies when Zimbabweans could do it and fund them? Why are Zimbabweans never given opportunities in their own country? Why are they always bystanders? Now we've got 900 people in this space. If you can retweet that tweet, which is at the top, if half of us can retweet that tweet, that's about 450 to 500 people. Let's be proactive. Let's show that we are serious about this issue. Please tweet that, retweet that tweet. We want answers from our government. They need to respond. The more people retweet, the more it gets to them. So please, could you retweet that tweet that I've just pinned at the top, asking why is it Zimbabweans are failing to get access to opportunities? This deal does not cost any more than we can. I mean, if you look at Zimbabweans in South Africa, in England, we could put money together and actually do this. We could get a technology company that will assist to do the work, whether it's China, whether it's Germany, but we could do this. And we could do it in such a way that it's actually cheaper for the residents of Harare and the rest of the country. So could you kindly retweet that? And whilst we're at that, I will move on to Maboko, Ntombi.
Thank you, Hopeful. Maboko. Hi, everyone. Salbanan. Mine is a very simple question because Uvimbai sort of touched on something that I'd written down. And Rusty, I know you mentioned something about a court case that was going on. And I just wanted to understand that what is the expected outcome if we're trying to speak out against a signed contract by all relevant bodies? How easy is it to challenge a contract that's already signed and sealed? And what are we expecting as an outcome for the challenges? There was also something that was raised around, people of all regions to talk and doi against this. How do we get people to do that, and how effective would that be? And I also wanted to just understand that obviously, is there a collaborative way of approaching this, or is it just you, Rusty, putting a court case through? Is there other things that are going on to pretty much address the fact that there's gaps in the process and, all the different things? Because I'm just thinking that if you go in the court and you lose the case, does that mean that's it? That's it? We just accept that, or are there other levels that need to be covered around that? I'll just leave it there for now, Hopewell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Kanye, please go ahead.
Can I answer that question?
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Hope. A very, very good question. The outcome, as I said before, what I'm trying to do here is ask the question. I'm trying to highlight all the loopholes we've got and how we're being ridden over roughshod by the government, and that all procedures, in my view, are being ignored. They're there for a reason, to prevent this happening. So if this happens, and if it goes ahead because the contract is signed, sealed, and delivered, that's fine. But we as residents must now make sure that it never happens again, because it's happening once too often for us. So my question is very simply, is the government must realize that the residents are very unhappy about what's happened. So if the court case goes our way and we redo it, we've offered, and we offer again quite widely, that we are prepared to help and sort out and put the contract in order so that it is reasonable for both sides. However, if it goes the other way, we must now make sure as residents that it doesn't happen a second time, because fundamentally, and it was brought up earlier on, the very person who was involved with Drax Delish is now contracted for this one again. So it's now happening a second time. Are we that silly or stupid? Are we that gullible? We have to stand up. And it's not just Rusty Markham. There are a couple of other applicants, including, for example, Combined Harare Residents Association. They came on board straight away. They are very alert, and I must commend them for that. And we need people like that. So we as residents must, combined with our other residents associations, combined with our councillors, force the legislation to be obeyed. It's this, it's that, it's every piece of land owned by City of Harare. Our land bank is being denuded to nothing. The wetlands in the last 10 years, we've got less than 48% of the wetlands left because people are building on it. So those are the issues, and we've got to stop it now for our children and their children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Markham. I ask again, we have got 1,100 people in this space. Please, can you retweet the tweet which I've posted at the top, asking why Zimbabweans are not being allowed to participate in these things? Why is it we are having Eastern Europeans coming and their companies imposed on us? Over 1,000 people in the space. If it's not important to you, don't retweet. But if you think it's important, please go ahead and retweet. Son of Stanley, please go ahead. Son of, please go ahead.
You see, like, I wanted to ask the main question.
Sorry, Hopo, it looks like Son of Africa has dropped down.
Mayor, Mayor, cut the deal now. Please just terminate this deal. Let them sue you. please institute a private prosecution against local government representatives that conspired in this deal. Why would it have to be private against local government? It is alleged that this was approved by cabinet. In cabinet sits the prosecutor general ex officio, the attorney general ex officio, they are ex officio cabinet members. If they approved it, they cannot prosecute themselves. We have precedents in the Kereke rape case, where there was a private prosecution and he went to prison. Why am I saying this? This is what draws attention to this thing. If we do it within the confines of there's something in court and so I gotta be careful, that's being defensive. You have to attack. You attack with sunlight. By private prosecution of cabinet, with your elected councillors, call all of them into a hearing, let them vote for the prosecution publicly now. That would be through, a public prosecutor for any Monzora councillors that participated. Let that go into newspapers. Let it be litigated publicly. Write letters to every resident of city of Harare and say, we are going to raise rates on you to pay 5 million to Devolution for canceling it. Let's see if people are going to sit. I feel we need to move from playing defense and we need to move to attacking, and let's litigate these things publicly. Mayor, you're a lawyer. There has never been a person that has ever been arrested or prosecuted for litigating publicly. They say, yes, it's, before the courts, but it's just talk, you'll never be prosecuted. Litigate it publicly, send your surrogates, let everyone talk about it. Let's put it out there. Let's light, shine light, and this is where we kill this thing. But cut the deal tomorrow now, please. Thank you, Hopewell.
Thank you so much, D. Very, very powerful words there. I can see that people are understanding what is at stake, and if and Mayor Jacob Mafume, thank you so much for coming on board. The citizens who are on this platform, as you can see, the name of the space has changed to Pomona Scandal Citizen Reflections. So I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Salani. When she's done, she knows how to get hold of me, and then that will be it. But MP Rusty, ndiwe mdala saka ndonotanga, your outgoing reflections.
Thanks, Hopewell. I'd like to thank all the listeners because I see a lot have stayed in for such a long time. I've just done, because you asked me a question which I hadn't done, which is quite interesting. I did a calculation of $40,000 a day times 25 years. And then I did the other 5 years, the build-up years, at 3/4 that. So we'll be paying in 30 years, City of Harare will be paying $400 million to deliver our own waste to our own dump, to make our own electricity. That excludes the money that is going to get for generating 22 megawatts per day from ZESA. So the amount of money here is phenomenal, but City of Harare will never be able to pay 400 million in this period of time, particularly with the exchange rate fluctuations we got. So as residents, what I'm asking you to do is highlight what we've told you. Highlight everyone. And I like the comments of the last or second last question, where we must now go on to attack rather than defense. And the attack is very simple. We want an explanation for everything. And we keep it running, because there's one thing we haven't even discussed here. The one thing every politician is terrified of is the vote. And the more noise you make, the more people are going to listen to you. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rusty, for giving us 2 hours of your time. Mayor, please go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank the listeners for listening in and the contributions that have come from everyone. We are appreciative of the concern, and what we would promise is that as Triple C councillors, from our president, President Advocate Nelson Chamisa, to the Triple C councillors that are there in council, we will side with the citizens. We will act in a manner that protects the citizens. We will not be part to the stripping of the citizens. As I said earlier, we will not allow this deal to exist any day longer than is necessary, and that we will call the remedial steps that are required to deal with this deal. We call upon the people of Zimbabwe to be vigilant, always alert, because this is the only city we have, this is the only country we have, and we have to make sure that it is a country for all citizens and not a few citizens, and that the wealth and the processes be enjoyed by all citizens in a fair and equitable manner. And we must not allow ourselves to be bullied by some citizens because of the positions that ironically we would have given them ourselves. We need to be able to rescue the city, and we will be part of the process of rescuing the city as your mayor and also as the Triple C councillors with the mandate given by me, by our president, Advocate Nelson Chamisa.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for that. I just want to remind our listeners that to understand, I think Honorable Rusty said it's 22 megawatts. So if you are in England today and if you have driven on the M1, you see those big windmills, 2 of them can generate 22 megawatts. One can generate 11 megawatts. So all this pain that we're going through, imagine you're on the M1 going to Birmingham or Nottingham, those windmills you see on the left when you're coming from London, those 2 of them can generate 22 megawatts. But we're being made to go through this, pay all these millions for something that can be generated by those 2 windmills you see on the motorways in England. I'm sure in South Africa they have the same things as well. I've seen windmills in South Africa on TV. But in England, if you think of those windmills on the motorways, 2 of them can generate 22 megawatts. This is all about the power that can be generated by those 2 windmills. So thank you very much for coming, and I'll leave you in the capable hands of Selani. Over to you, Selani.
Wow, Hopewell, fantastic space as always. What big shoes you are leaving me here to fill. I sincerely hope that everybody who's been part of this discussion, listening, have enjoyed what they've heard, have gained even more understanding. And the beautiful part of it is that we're now